Okay, so we are diving into some really fascinating stuff today. We're going to be looking at the Sermon on the Mount,
Oh, wow.
one of history's most well-known um, speeches. And
Absolutely.
I think, I don't know about you, but when I look at it, it just seems so radical.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. I think it's stood the test of time,
Yeah.
and it still feels very revolutionary.
And it's really interesting, you know, thousands of years later, and we're still kind of grappling with some of the ideas in it.
For sure.
So we've got some excerpts here from a text that really kind of digs deep
Yeah.
into what the Sermon on the Mount's all about, and we're going to kind of try and unpack it together today, and see what we can learn from it, and see how it can maybe apply to our lives even today.
It's incredible how, with all the things that have changed over the millennia, so many of the things that are in there are still completely relevant to 21st century life. Whether it's personal relationships or, our relationship with society and with the world around us.
Yeah, and even just even thinking about how we view ourselves.
Oh, yeah,
It
yeah.
just sort of
Our own internal world.
yeah, it really kind of just challenges a lot of our preconceived notions about things.
It flips the script on
Yeah.
a lot of things that we kind of take for granted, I think, especially in you know, Western society, modern life.
Exactly.
Like, ideas of success, ideas of power, ideas of happiness, all that gets kind of, put on its head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think even just starting out with the Beatitudes,
Right.
it's so interesting because the Beatitudes, they're not, it doesn't say blessed are the rich and famous.
Right. Exactly.
It's they're not the typical sort of blessings that you might expect.
Exactly.
Because you're talking about, blessed are the meek.
Blessed are the merciful, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness.
Yeah.
These are things that you don't often see in the, on the cover of a self-help book or, whatever.
Right, exactly.
Um,
Not really the qualities that, society kind of pushes us towards.
right, yeah, that we're taught, will make you a winner.
Exactly.
Or, lead you to the top of the ladder or whatever.
So how do you, I'm just even curious about that. Like, how do you reconcile that?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you look at, especially blessed are the meek,
Mm-hmm.
like how do we make sense of that? Because it seems like it's almost saying like, just be a pushover. Just let people take advantage of you.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you've got that phrase, "The meek shall inherit the earth,"
Yeah.
and it's actually got deep roots in the Old Testament, in in the Psalms.
Okay.
So it's this idea that ultimately justice will prevail,
Yeah.
and that those who have been oppressed will be will be lifted up. But I don't think it's there's this interesting paradox, isn't there, with meekness? Because I don't think it necessarily means being passive or just letting people walk all over you.
Yeah.
I think it's more about a kind of humility.
Okay.
It's about recognizing a force greater than yourself and not always needing to be, the one in control.
Yeah, I guess it is sort of like it's about real strength coming from within.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
necessarily from, outward power
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
or dominating other people.
It's that inner strength, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of that emphasis on inner transformation that runs throughout the whole sermon.
Right.
It's not just about outward action. It's about what's going on inside. It's about the thoughts and intentions behind the things that we do.
Yeah, and he actually says, that things like anger
Yeah.
or lust or even, selfish desires,
Mm-hmm.
those are as impactful as the actions themselves.
Yeah, it's not enough just to kind of appear righteous or or just to do the right things outwardly.
Right.
It's about a deeper change.
Yeah, that's a pretty high standard, I got to say.
It is.
I feel like it's sort of like he's saying it's not enough to just look good on the outside.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be good on the inside.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's so relevant, especially today. I mean, we
Yeah.
live in such an image-obsessed world, where social media
Oh yeah.
kind of rewards superficiality. You
Right.
know,
Right.
it's all about, presenting this perfect image of yourself.
Yeah, and not only that, but
Uh-huh.
even judging other people's images.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just
Oh,
constant. It's constant comparison.
yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
And I think, this message of like authentic inner work, that's something that that's really kind of countercultural
Oh,
in a
100%.
way. And yeah, it's not always easy or glamorous.
No, and I think that sort of leads into, um, I think one of the most challenging
Yeah.
aspects of the Sermon on the Mount, that we kind of have to talk about is this idea of love and forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I think this is where things get really radical, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about
Yeah.
loving your enemies, turning the other cheek, forgiving those who hurt you.
Yeah.
I mean, these are
I
like,
mean, how is that even like? How do you even wrap your head around that? It's like how do you actually live that out? Because it just seems so counterintuitive.
yeah, and so difficult, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, even today, these are some of the most difficult teachings to really grasp.
Yeah, because it feels like,
Hmm.
if you're forgiving someone, you're kind of letting them off the hook.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it almost seems like it's almost enabling bad behavior.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and I think a lot of people sort of struggle with that. Like,
Yeah.
where's the justice in that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a totally valid concern.
Yeah.
But I think it's, maybe a different way to think about it is
Yeah.
is that, holding on to that anger and resentment
Yeah.
that also comes with a huge cost, right?
Yes.
That can consume you, that can really poison your outlook on life.
Yeah.
And, I think that what Jesus is offering here is a path, not necessarily an easy path, but
Mhm.
it's a path towards breaking those cycles.
Yeah. I guess it's almost like, it's about choosing, like long-term peace over short-term satisfaction.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
That's a good way to put it.
or revenge.
Right. Right.
But I mean, how does this play out practically?
Hmm.
It can't just be about
Yeah.
letting people walk all over you, right?
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that forgiveness doesn't mean condoning the actions.
Right.
It doesn't mean that what someone did was okay.
Yeah.
It's really about I think it's about recognizing our shared humanity, even with those who have wronged us,
Yeah.
and it's about releasing yourself from that burden of anger and resentment.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that idea of releasing burdens
Yeah.
and not getting so caught up in judgment and wanting to be right and all of that, that really ties back to that whole theme of humility that we were talking about before.
Absolutely, yeah.
It seems to run through the whole Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah, there's this constant he condemns hypocrisy, right?
Mm.
It's this constant call to self-reflection, to look inwards,
Yeah.
to be aware of our own flaws before we're criticizing others.
Yeah, and I think that is so relevant today, especially
know.
with social media and everything. It's almost like
Everyone's a judge and jury.
yeah, it's like everyone's a judge and jury, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just this constant kind of like
Yeah.
pointing fingers.
Yeah, and I think that, that call to humility is such an important antidote to that. It's this constant reminder to check our own motivations,
Yeah.
to check our egos at the door.
Yeah.
And I think this also kind of ties into another really powerful thread in the sermon, which
Sure.
is the challenge to conventional ideas of success and wealth.
Yeah.
Jesus is essentially saying, watch out for the trap of material possessions.
Mm.
They won't bring you lasting happiness.
It's so interesting because it's almost like he's flipping the script
Totally.
on the whole like work hard, get rich, be happy
Right.
mantra that we're kind of bombarded with.
Yeah, that's the dominant narrative, really, of our culture, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is presenting a completely different vision of success,
Yeah.
one that's focused on spiritual growth, on compassion, on generosity.
Yeah.
It's about seeking treasures that transcend material wealth.
So, I mean, it feels like we've covered a lot of ground here, and I think for me, I'm just kind of sitting here thinking, like, what's the takeaway?
Yeah.
It just seems like a lot to process,
Yeah, no, I hear you.
you know?
I think that the Sermon on the Mount, it really is like a blueprint for a different way of living. It challenges us to rethink our priorities,
Mm-hmm.
to really consider the impact of our thoughts and actions,
Yeah.
and to, to strive for a more loving and compassionate world.
Yeah, and maybe the key is not to feel like we have to do everything at once.
Right.
Not to feel overwhelmed by the
Yeah.
whole thing, but maybe just to pick one teaching
Yeah.
that really resonates with you,
Hmm.
and to try to live that out, even in a small way.
I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
So, I guess a question for you listening is,
Yeah.
what's the one teaching from the Sermon on the Mount that speaks to you the most?
Yeah.
And how might you, start incorporating that into your life, even just in a small way, starting today?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Food for thought.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really fascinating.
Hey, it's been a great discussion.
It has. Thank you so much
Thanks for having me.
for diving into this with me today.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Sounds good.
Yeah, take care.
All right, take care.